Hey, it's Rob from Wheelworx Bike Shop in Dublin. We have a Speed Concept for unboxing. I think this one is for a customer from Singapore. I think. So if you're watching, Janelle, don't get too excited until I actually open it and see what's in the box. I haven't looked at the delivery docket. I just walked in the door. There's a box. I grabbed Chad. I grabbed the box, grabbed the cable cutters, and I thought we'll open it and see what it is. But we have a few Speed Concepts due in over the next couple of weeks, and I think this is the one for Janella, who's coming from Singapore. We've had quite a lot of customers come in from overseas over the last 18 months for Speed Concepts in particular. Can't see that colour. It's not Janella's. This is actually a Dublin customer. Well, Kildare, which is the county beside Dublin. But anyway, we'll take it out and we'll have a look at it. We've had a lot of customers come in from abroad over the last year, 18 months. What we found is the Speed Concept has become more and more specialised over the last while. I should really unbox this for the people like Aisling who are only watching to see what the colour is. I'll be taking it out while I'm talking. So, as the Speed Concept has become more and more specialised and more and more expensive, less and less shops are carrying them. It used to be that Troy bikes started at under €2,000. You could get an aluminium felt. We used to sell them for about 11 or 1200 euro, and the carbon one started at about 1600. This is going back about 10 years ago. So Troy bikes were something that a lot of shops dabbled in. They'd have one or two on the floor and they'd sell the odd one or two. And then I suppose COVID changed things, Ironman changed things, and the price of bikes changed things. So COVID, it sort of killed a lot of races. So a lot of the smaller races are gone. So there's probably less triathletes now coming through the sport than there was before. It's starting to come back a bit, but it's going to be slow coming back. And then a lot of people, when I started triathlon 20 years ago, we all came through sprint distance and Olympic distance, and we'd maybe do one half Ironman at the end of the year. But it was only crazy people that did Ironman stuff. And now people go straight in their first race is an Ironman. So the sport has changed a lot over the last 20 years. But what's happened with people graduating straight to Ironman in a lot of cases is that a lot of the time the training becomes more important than the other races. So they don't necessarily race as often as they used to. So they'll be training for an Ironman, and they'll train for months and months, and they'll do a couple of training camps maybe, or they'll just train straight through, and they might only race once or twice. My first couple of seasons, when I was doing short course racing as a beginner, I would have done 15 or 16 or 20 races across a year between duathlons and triathlons. In the last few years, as I moved towards the longer distance stuff and started doing mostly Ironman, I might only race 2 or 3 times in a year. So that hasn't helped a lot of the smaller races. And then the other thing that's changed a lot is a lot of companies have stopped making tri bikes. So that's a piece of the cockpit. We don't need to see that. So as a lot of companies have moved out of the tri bike market, it's become more and more specialist, and there isn't that entry level to it anymore. So people are either on a road bike with tri bars, which is the way it was when I started, or they're on a 6, 7, 8, 10,000 euro bike, and with the Treks they start at almost 10,000 euro. So the entry level for athletes is very high, but the entry level for shops is also very high, because if you walk into a bike shop and you want to see a Speed Concept, you probably don't just want to see one. You want to see a couple of the colours and maybe try the size that you're supposed to be. And for a shop that doesn't specialise in triathlon or tri bikes, that's pretty difficult to do, because you're talking about an investment just to get into tri bikes, an investment of maybe 20, 30, 40,000 euro just to have 3 or 4 bikes on the floor. So because we've been doing tri bikes and triathlon stuff, and we've been involved in the sport for so long, it's a core part of our business, and we've sort of built up that customer base, and Like at any given time, we'd carry, in the Speed Concepts, we'd probably have 25 to 30 of them in stock at the moment. So it's a very big commitment, but it means then that we get people traveling to us because they can see all the colors, they can try different sizes, and they also know that we're familiar with the bikes, because they're not straightforward to build. Like, it's all internal cablings, and like, this is your base bar, comes in 3 different rises. There you can trim them for different hand sizes. So if you've got big hands or small hands, we can cut these to size. You've got internal cable routing, you've got different stem sizes, you've got different cradle sizes, you've got all sorts of adjustments and things like that. So there's a lot of specialist knowledge that, if you're not into the triathlon stuff, it's not necessarily, it doesn't fall into a lot of bike shops' wheelhouses. The same way as you're not going to show up and buy a downhill mountain bike off me, because no clue. Anyway, we'll get on to the colour. But the benefit for us then is that the toys that we like to play with, as a rule, are the road and the tri bikes. So we get to do a lot of very custom, cool bikes. So this one is it's Emerald Iris. It's one of the standard colours, but we did it through Project One. And the benefit of that is you can go with a stock colour. There's no extra cost, but if it's done through the Project One system, you get to customize things like the base bar. So that's not the stock base bar, that's the high rise. And the benefit of the high rise bar over the either the mid rise or the flat bar is that the higher position will make it a little bit easier and more comfortable for an athlete who maybe isn't as confident and doesn't need that really aggressive position. It also raises up where your stack starts for the tri bar, so it can give you a taller position. So if you're doing longer distance racing and you want that slightly more upright position so that your power is not compromised and you're not in a very aggressive position and trying to do that for 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 hours, then that's one of the things you can customize. You can change all of the cockpit setups. So the tri bars come with different height stack and different cradles for moving them back and forth, and that can all be customized within the Project One system. And that's the sort of stuff that we can help with recommendations. And also when we're speccing those, they typically, it doesn't matter too much if we get them wrong, because we keep all the fitting kits in stock. So if something needs to be changed, we just swap it out. Or if you go away and ride the bike for a month or two and decide that you need to be a little bit higher or a little bit lower, we'll take back your old fitting kit and swap it over for the new one. So getting all those things absolutely 100% right at the start, it's not as critical as it might be if you were buying it somewhere that didn't have the access to parts that we would, just because we sell quite a lot of the Speed Concepts. So anyway, you can also spec crank length, chain ring size. You can change wheel model from the Pro to the RSLs. You can change wheel depth, and we can even down spec the wheels. Or a lot of what we do for people who are traveling from abroad is we'll sell just the frame set. So you can specify just the frame set module. So either the frame fork or frame for cockpit seat post, we can spec them any way you like and sell them any way you like, which is something that, as far as I'm aware, we're probably one of the only shops in the world that does that, because I know we've had people looking from around the world, and they've told us that they can't get it locally. So this one is, we've been talking so much about Speed Concepts in general, we haven't dealt with this one at all. So this is it's an SLR7. So the SLR is the frame only comes in SLR level carbon, which is the highest level. The group set, the number relates to the group set and the build spec. So it's Ultegra Di2. We've gone for a wide range cassette on the back for hillier races. You've got a long cage derailleur on the new 12-speed Ultegra, so it can handle wide ratio cassettes or standard. It's the Emerald Iris paint job, and on a dull day, it's not the best day to try and show that one off. It changes colour in the sun from green to purple. I don't know if Chad's able to capture any of that as it moves. Very good. It's the Aeolus Pro 51 wheel set, which is the mid-range wheels. One of the big benefits with both the Speed Concept and the Bontrager wheels is Trek they've taken a slightly different and probably a bit counterintuitive approach to speed. One of the things that I've found the big benefit of the Speed Concept over a number of the other Troy bikes that we've sold over the years is how easy it is to get the speed out of it. They're very stable. They're very easy to ride. And typically triathletes, they don't typically come from a cycling background, so they don't have the bike handling skills necessarily that a cyclist or a mountain biker might have. So they might be very aerobically fit, very aerobically strong. They do all the training on a turbo trainer. They don't necessarily learn how to handle a bike very well. And the problem with that is that if you're on a bike that's twitchy or difficult to ride, you're not actually, it might be very fast in a straight line with no wind. But once you start to get into difficult conditions and you start to get blown around, you're losing all that speed because you're out of the Troy bars, you're up on the bullhorns. The Speed Concept is really stable. It's very easy to ride. It's very easy for newer triathletes who might be very fast because they're very fit but don't have the bike handling skills. It's very easy for them to get the maximum speed out of it. The same with the Bontrager wheels. Very stable, very easy to ride. So the Speed Concept comes with an aero bottle, and underneath the aero bottle is storage compartment where you can put your tube. Sits into this little space in here. You've got a valve key here to change out if you've got a deep section wheel and you need to change out your valve for a long neck valve, so you can put a valve extender into it, and that's for removing the valve core to extend it. Your CO2 sits in here, and there's a little mini tool that sits in here. So you've got all your spares inside in the frame in that sort of normally wasted space. You've got at the top end here, you've got what's called an ISO-speed decoupler. It's basically like a shock absorber built into the frame, so it's much more comfortable. You've got a multi-position seat post, so we can change the orientation of the clamp either forwards or backwards if you want a very aggressive position or if you want a more laid back position. You've got internal storage in the frame, so your food can go in here, and the little dividers are removable, very easily removable, or easy to pop back in if you want to separate things. And that's sort of the basics of the bike until we put on the cockpit and stuff. So we'll get this into the workshop. We'll get some photos and a video before it's booked in for fitting and collected, and we'll give you a run through of it when it's finished.